And Senator Penn, you have two bills. One is on consent, and you can present on item number 5, SB 292, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, SB 292 will clarify conflict that currently exists between the traditional use of decades-old voter-approved pension tax levies and a requirement of the Public Employees Pension Reform Act, or PEPRA. These tax levies exist in 24 cities and 1 county. They were enacted by voters for the purpose of paying pension costs prior to the passage of Prop 13 in 1978. And even though Prop 13 limited property taxes, these pension levies were grandfathered under Prop 13. Traditionally, the levies have been used to pay the entire pension costs, including both the employer and employee shares. PEPRA inadvertently created a conflict with these voter-approved levies by requiring new employees subject to PEPRA to pay an employee contribution of 50% of the actual normal costs of their respective pension plans. SB 292 resolves this conflict by allowing these employers and employees to continue to bargain over the amount of employee contributions, including allowing the tax levies to pay all or a portion of the employee's share. Finally, the committee has been provided with clarifying amendments to ensure that only employee positions originally covered by the levies would be subject to this exemption, and that the exemption in the bill only applies to the requirement that an employer, in this case using the dedicated tax levies, may not pay any portion of the employee's contributions. I want to thank the committee staff for assisting with these amendments and request that the committee adopt these amendments today. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Randy Perry with Aaron Reed and Associates on behalf of PORAC, co-sponsors of the bill. In our negotiations with the governor and the administration, his stated intent, one of the most important aspects of the 50% normal cost or the employee pickup EPMC programs and limiting those was to reduce costs for local governments and the state. Because we found out after PEMCA was passed about these 23 cities in 1 county who had previously, the voters had passed tax levies to pay for their pension costs. The sections of PEPRA dealing with those 2 areas will now increase the cost to these 22 cities, wherein right now the tax levy pays for these employees and employers' shares of costs of the pensions. These cities will now have to dip into their own general fund to either pay the employee portion, or they would have to give raises to the employees in order to try and keep them on, and it'll severely hurt them in their recruiting. It will now have to come out of their general fund, wherein all these years, and many of these were passed in the 20s and 30s, and all of these years it was paid for out of this fund. So it goes in the opposite direction of what the governor's stated intent of those 2 sections were, and we're just simply trying to correct that. Thank you.
Additional witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Christy Bauma on behalf of the California Professional Firefighters, pleased to be co-sponsors of this measure. I think our author and Randy have covered it significantly, and there's a lockbox on these voter-approved dollars, and we just like to unlock that box so they can then locally decide how they use those monies to support and fund their pension liabilities. Urge your support.
Additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Michael Arnold, here today representing the city of Oxnard. We love the author and we hate the bill. We don't really agree with the proponents' arguments in connection with the bill. But let me just say that in the city of Oxnard, there was a pension override passed in 1951, allowing for certain costs for public safety employees to be paid for through the pension override. Subsequently, however, there have been court decisions which have capped the amount that the city is able to pay in connection with those pension costs. what this bill would do is to basically roll back some of the reforms made in the 2012, well, one of the reforms made in the 2012 pension reform law by exempting certain employees from the requirement that new employees, and we're only talking about new employees, pay 1/2 of their pension obligations. And your committee analysis is an excellent analysis of what the bill does. If the bill passes, unfortunately, the poor little city of Oxnard, already in financial difficulty, is going to have that difficulty exacerbated because they will be expected to pay for half of the costs for these new employees. I would suggest to you that you be a little cautious. Many, many years ago, Christy's father, Brian Hatch, and I had lunch one day back in the 70s. I was representing the League of California Cities, and Brian was representing the firefighters, and got to know Brian very well, and we've been very good friends over the years. One of the things I always told Brian in connection with this, representing cities, was, "You guys are going to kill the golden goose." At this point in time, we have a 3% at 50 retirement formula. At 50 years of age, a person can retire with 90% pay for the rest of their lives and health care for themselves and their spouse for the rest of their lives. The actuaries who have looked at this have concluded that that is absolutely unsustainable over time. It's probably not a good idea to be rolling back the pension reforms that we put in place in 2012, because I really think that in 2016 we're going to have a proposal on the ballot, which is going to be a real problem for public employees, and I think you should also be a little cautious in terms of your own cities. If you will look at the analysis, we just picked this bill up on behalf of the city of Oxnard because that's what we do for our city. This bill also will apply to Alameda, and I don't know if the city of Alameda has looked at this bill or not, but it may create the similar kind of problem for Alameda. I don't know. Huntington Park, Linwood, Maywood, Bell. So I think that it's a measure that you might want to be a little careful on. The city of Oxnard is in opposition, and we hope you'll maybe put the bill over and take a closer look at it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition? See none. Any questions or comments from committee members? See none. Dr. Pan, would you like to close?
Thank you. I should probably point out, I love the lobbyists, but I have to disagree with some of the statements. Just briefly, this bill is not rolling back PEPRA. We're actually giving localities more flexibility. They will still be bargaining with their employees that are affected by this bill in terms of their pensions and so forth. So that does not go away under this bill. We're just saying that monies that have already been dedicated by the voters have dedicated that they have to go to pension costs, to payments, right? That we give the cities flexibility to be able to use that so that we don't create pressure because under PEPRA that's going to push salary pressures up and other pressures up, because now what happens is that we don't allow them to actually use money that they can only use for pensions and not use that when they collectively bargain to help pay, for example, for an employee share that may help them then be able to negotiate lower salary and so forth. In fact, I would point out that amongst all only Oxnard is the only city that is opposed, and I think that some of the arguments that were presented, actually, when you look carefully at this bill, are not going to cause the types of problems that they're talking about. So, with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. The committee can entertain a motion. We have a motion. We have a second. The motion is due pass as amended. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bonta.
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Waldron. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Jones Sawyer. Aye. Jones Sawyer, aye. O'Donnell. Aye. O'Donnell, aye. Rendon. Aye. Rendon, aye. Wagner.
Your bill passes, Dr. Pan.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll we'll go to item number 8, SJR 1, Senator Bell. Welcome, Senator Bell.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Members, I think you've heard this before. On behalf of myself and Senator Pavley, I present this resolution to you for your consideration. Senate Joint Resolution Number 1 urges the United States Congress to pass the legislation repealing the Social Security Act's windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Now, in California, these provisions penalize individuals who begin their careers in the private sector and then switch over to the public sector. When individuals switch careers to become teachers or public safety officers, firefighters, it also reduces their benefits because the state or local government employer is not coordinated with Social Security. It's critical that the United States Congress takes action in removing these penalties to ensure our teachers and other public employees are treated fairly under the current Social Security system. I'd like to pass it on to the co-sponsors of the resolution. Thank you very much.
Witnesses in support?
Good morning. Jennifer Baker with the California Teachers Association, one of the co-sponsors of the measure. It's very important that we try to get both the WIP and the GPO eliminated. It really penalizes educators for choosing to come into the profession. We've had a history of trying to encourage individuals from the private sector to come into teaching, particularly in STEM subjects. And what has happened oftentimes is someone has worked in the private sector for about 10, 15 years. They come in to teach high school math, and they find out when they're going to retire that to thank them for the service that they've given to the children of the state of California, the federal government is going to reduce or eliminate not only the Social Security benefits that they earn as an instructor, but if their spouse worked in the private sector, when their spouse passes, the Social Security benefits that they would have received from their spouse are reduced or eliminated as well. This is a horrible way to treat educators in the state of California, particularly since they've contributed so much. So we ask you to join us in supporting this important resolution to get Congress to eliminate the WEP and GPO.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support?
Rebecca Curley on behalf of the California Retired Teachers Association in support. Repealing these penalties will help achieve social security fairness for dedicated public servants such as teachers, police officers, and firefighters, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Salvia Senor with the Association of California School Administrators, which all of these administrators for the most part started off as teachers, and they've been in the profession for quite a long time. And during their careers, they may have earned Social Security. And as Jennifer Baker stated, the fact that we're now in a place where school districts are in dire need of professionals from the private sector to come and join us, and they find it very difficult to accept the fact that after all these years of service, they're going to be impacted. And so we urge your support of SJR 1.
Andrea York on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges and co-sponsor and strong support. Many community college faculty enter into the profession at a later age because of the considerable investment that they have to make in their graduate programs or PhDs. And then when they enter into the community college system, they often have to work in the private sector as well because our system is over-reliant on part-time faculty. So they really cobble together a retirement between Social Security and CalSTRS, and it's very unfair that they have to make that investment into the system without getting anything at the end of the day.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support?
Good morning, Michelle McKay Underwood on behalf of the Association of California Community College Administrators in support.
Mary Ann Ashley with the California State Teachers Retirement System in support.
Thank you. Seeing no additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Comments or questions from committee members? Assemblymember Cooley.
Well, Mr. Bell, I want to thank you for bringing this measure forward. I think this is a very important issue for California. and it's just sort of my perspective on pensions. You know, secure retirement, a source of spending money in retirement, is bigger than the individual who receives it. It's a very vital economic engine. The ability of people late in their career to decide, I'm done, I want to enter retirement, but to move in retirement with a source of funds to spend on goods and services in retirement plays a very, very vital role in our economy, particularly in times of downturn. You know, this is one of the engines that can help pull us out. And I think nationally, you look at the decline in pensions. Most American workers used to have a pension in the 50s and the 60s. That is not the case today. They often end up with a 401k, which performs badly in a downturn as assets shrink. And so a source of retirement spending is very, very important as a countercyclical feature to help drive the economy even in the midst of a downturn. So with this resolution, we're actually saying we can call upon the Congress to do something which will help make more dollars available to California retirees in good times and bad. And this is important to the sort of spending we have in our economy, the multiplier effect, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to say this is an outstanding measure. Every 2 years I go on a math science camp with a teacher who is a math teacher who entered teaching from the private sector. He's a very creative guy promoting teaching, but I know this is the sort of person who would be affected because he had a very productive private sector career before entering the teacher profession. But I definitely feel this aligns with our interests and the interests of our economy of having people who can retire and spend money to kind of help move us all forward.
Thank you, Assemblymember Cooley. Any other comments or questions from committee members? The committee can entertain a motion. We have a motion. We have a second. Senator Bell, would you like to close?
Yes, I'd just like to point out there's a bipartisan bill in Congress right now. Congressman Rodney Davis, Republican from Illinois, and Adam Schiff, Democrat from California, have introduced H.R. 973. It's awaiting scheduling on the House Ways and Means Committee right now. So we have an active legislative effort. Let's get behind it and support it. This particular provision of letting people have their money they've already put in Social Security, essentially. They've already put their money in, and now they just want to, get their benefits that they earned. Particularly affects California more than most other states. So this would particularly benefit California. I urge an aye vote on this.
Thank you, Senator Bell, for your leadership on this important issue. I'm happy to support your bill today. We have a motion. We have a second. The motion is that SJR 1 be adopted to the Assembly floor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bonta.
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Waldron. Waldron, aye. Cooley. Cooley, aye. Jones Sawyer. Jones Sawyer, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye. Rendon. Rendon, aye. Wagner.
The bill is out. Thank you, Senator Bell. Let's move to the consent calendar. We can entertain a motion on the consent calendar. We have a motion. We have a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bonta.
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Waldron. Waldron, aye. Cooley. Aye. Cooley, aye. Jones Sawyer. Jones Sawyer, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye. Rendon. Rendon, aye. Wagner.
The consent calendar is out, and I see Senator Hancock with us. Please come forward, Senator Hancock. We'll go to item number 7, SB 644. Whenever you're ready, Senator Hancock.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. SB 644 is a bill to improve the existing and quite successful program called LEAP, which stands for Limited Examination and Appointment Program, and helps people with disabilities gain state employment. The issue here is that the bill works very well for people with physical disabilities, but is not as successful for people with developmental disabilities. We know that people with developmental disabilities can to handle complex jobs. We have examples in many counties and institutions of how they do it. We know they deeply appreciate having the work and are excellent employees. So what SB 644 does is create an alternative to the written examination that is a requirement for being considered for employment, and replaces it with the option of a successful internship. And it does not guarantee a job, but if the individual successfully completes the internship, their name can be forwarded to the hiring authority. The bill has no opposition. It receives strong bipartisan support in the Senate. It would greatly open opportunities for these individuals, and I would ask for your aye vote. With me to speak in support of the bill today is Will Stamford with Futures Explored, Dion Aroner of East Bay Innovations, and Sue North from the California Disability Services Association.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Witnesses in support.
Absolutely. Someone Rabanta, good to see you as always. Will Stanford with Futures Explored. We are one of the sponsors of this bill. We are hoping to encourage the state to take a leadership role in the Employment First policy it passed several years ago by giving opportunities for our folks to demonstrate the ability to do the job versus having to take a written test. We do this in a variety of settings in both private and some local public sector areas. And we have found that employers are often amazed at the skill level our folks can bring, but they're individuals they probably would never have interviewed. They would never have gotten by the front door. They have not passed the written exam, but can clearly do the work. We work for the Department of Child Support Services. We have 25 folks under contract there. We do a job that on paper our folks can't do. I'm not sure I could do it. You have to be fully proficient in all aspects of Microsoft Office, be able to use multiple computers. It's really a job about scanning, keeping a scanner running very effectively and efficiently, being able to compare data that's on the screen with what's on printed, and be able to quality control it and do that very effectively and efficiently, which we've done now for 5 years. They're employed full-time. They could work for the state under that, but they would not have passed the test. This is a way to do that, so we recommend your support for an aye.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair, Sue North with California Disability Services Association. We're co-sponsoring the bill. Our world is changing in that the federal government is putting pressure on the state to expand our efforts to help people get access to competitive integrated employment settings at or above minimum wage. And this is one way that the state of California can step up and deliver in its own context. And local governments like San Francisco, Alameda County, Santa Clara County, a number of local governments have created something very similar to the provisions of this bill, and it's worked successfully, and we hope that you'll allow California to also open the door in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Dion Aroner on behalf of East Bay Innovations, another co-sponsor of the bill. We are a supported employment program and successfully have people working at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, at Children's Hospital in Oakland in very high-tech positions, that kind of thing, and we're in support of the bill.
Greg DeGere with the Oregon United Cerebral Palsy California collaboration. Adults with developmental disabilities overwhelmingly have extremely low incomes. This bill represents a possible path out of poverty for many of them, and we support the bill.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support.
Nicole Wertelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors in support.
Daniel Savino, Association of Regional Center Agencies, representing the 21 nonprofit regional centers serving over 280,000 people with developmental disabilities, all of whom could potentially stand to benefit from this very worthy piece of legislation. The ability to work, to be independent, to have your own job, to bring home a paycheck is so important, and this creates more access to that opportunity. It doesn't short-circuit any process or any oversight. It just tests someone on their ability to do the job, not to do the test. A very worthwhile piece of legislation, very strongly in support.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Any questions or comments from committee members? Assemblymember Rendon.
Thank you. I just wanted to real briefly thank the senator for bringing this forward. I operated a number of nonprofit organizations that sought to and did, in fact, employ a number of individuals with developmental disabilities. This is a slightly different dynamic being in the state government, but I think anything that provides more autonomy, and greater flexibility for HR officials and those folks making and hiring decisions is a good thing. So thanks for bringing this bill forward, and I'd like to move the bill.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Any additional comments or questions from committee members? Senator Hancock, would you like to close?
Just thank you, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you for your leadership on this issue, Senator Hancock. I'm happy to support your bill today. Thank you for bringing it forward. We have a motion. We have a second. The motion is due pass to Appropriations Committee. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bonta.
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Waldron. Aye. Waldron, aye. Cooley. Aye. Cooley, aye. Jones Sawyer. Aye. Jones Sawyer, aye. O'Donnell. Aye. O'Donnell, aye. Rendon. Aye. Rendon, aye. Wagner.
Bill is out. Thank you, Senator Hancock. We're going to lift the call on two items that are on call. We have item number 1, ACA 3, Assemblymember Gallagher.
Absent members, Cooley? No. Cooley? No.
Item number 1, ACA 3, fails. We'll lift the call on item number 2, SB 185, De Leon.
Absent members, Cooley? Aye. Cooley, aye. Rendon? Aye. Rendon, aye. Wagner.
SB 185 De Leon is out on a 5-1 vote, and there was a request for reconsideration from Assemblymember